given that we're in this crisis, that many companies are working from home, and which means that credit management teams, cash collectors are operating remotely, probably for the first time, because it's typically not been a team that has been operated outside the office. What do you see as the challenges that companies are facing, and how can they address them?
Yeah, I think that's you've hit the nail on the head there, certainly. If we imagine the typical credit department, it's one that, although it may support a level of home working, it's really on an occasional basis. These teams function best when centralized within the office environment. There's several reasons for that. Obviously, you're calling customers about outstanding payments, and that requires access to telephony. It requires access to systems, which store information about the outstanding payments, and quite often you also need to work in that team environment, because it can be one of those jobs that requires motivation of colleagues, the team environment, in order to hit those targets on a regular basis. So everything's changed now. Everyone's obviously gone home, and the first priority that would have been set up is obviously to enable the teams to be able to work from home. That means creating the ability for them to connect to the network. That could be through the issuing of tokens, secure tokens, or VPN access, the issuing of laptops, and making sure that those people are safe within the work environment, but within a home setting, has certainly been the priority of everyone that we've spoken to today. The next priority, of course, is to start making risk assessment based on the data that you have. This is something that many of our customers have been doing and using our solution in order to understand their customers and to understand, within those customers where they may face issues or be presented with a risk when it comes to the topic of collection. So some examples of the risk assessment should be assessing how many of your customers are on e-billing, for example, versus paper. Obviously, everyone is now at home. There's no one to deliver the mail, and even if the mail gets to the office, there's certainly no one to open it and load it. So first of all, understanding will invoicing be received by the customers is a good starting point. You can certainly then analyze your customers further to see, well, how do the ones that will receive invoices, settle those bills? Are they on electronic automatic payment methods, direct debits, SEPA transfers, etc., or are there going to be the need for them to be contacted and to check that those payment runs are still able to be executed? And this is one of the things that many of our customers are doing. That they're analyzing that data, and they're contacting those key accounts and trying to understand what measures have been put in place from their side to support the payment of the accounts.
What's their next kind of move when they've done that?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, thinking about it practically, I'm a credit manager. I've now got my team of X number of people that are all in the home environment, and I need to make sure that those guys have got ample work for them to be able to continue with their job. So I need to revisit the collection strategies that I follow. I need to be able to assess, will people be able to adapt their collection activity in a way that allows them to now reach people that are also remote. Maybe typically I used the phone to call a company when they had some outstanding balances. Now the chances are I won't be able to call all of those customers directly because their offices are closed. So I have to switch to more digital means of communication, which opens a new challenge. Do I have the right information to contact them digitally? Do I have their email address? Do I carry a mobile number so I can SMS them? And again, this is where Sidetrade's customers have had the advantage. They've been able to adapt their collection scenarios with just a couple of clicks based on these different segments of customers, so that they can move them more onto an automatic and digitized process. And the benefit of this really is that the credit managers can now see that the team have an ample amount of workload. They can go in on a daily basis, view their team's to-do lists, and certainly from there are able to assess that they have enough work to get on with in terms of chasing their customers, and they get that great visibility. It's quite peace of mind for the credit managers to now be able to get that workload cascaded in an automated way, as opposed to having to, keep following up on a infrequent basis, through calls and emails to them on a one-to-one basis to check that they're getting on all right. Another element that people are following at the moment is trying to look at the outcomes of collection activity. So, this is really important so that they can continue with that risk assessment. And so that involves creating different types of classifications in terms of outcomes. I've spoken to a number of customers that have actually introduced new dispute status codes around C19. And they're using those codes to track when customers have problems, and that's leading to them having the data to hand when speaking with their upper management about the risk that this crisis is presenting to them.
I guess risk assessment coming out of that is going to be quite key, isn't it, in terms of looking at the strain that your customers are under, and the likelihood of them maybe not paying at all, or paying considerably late, given the current crisis.
Absolutely. I mean, it's usual whether there's a crisis or not. The older an invoice becomes, the more chance it has of slipping into default and not being settled at all. And so it's really important that organizations are able to monitor those outstanding balances, able to adapt their forecasts in a real-time basis, taking all of this risk into consideration. So I was talking to one customer, they're using this new classification to adapt that forecast going forward, so that they can say, we know that this percentage of customers has indicated to us that they will have problems with payment. We've agreed installment plans around a fixed period of time, and we've got that tracked. And this period set of customers here, we don't know what's happening there. We're yet to be able to reach them. So those ones represent a greater risk to us. So the team are now going to focus on trying to understand what's happening with those. So by working in this structured and sort of pragmatic way, the businesses are able to now gain visibility as to what's happening on the ground, even though the ground has moved into the home environment for their employees.
We've heard some of our real largest clients having kind of payment holidays, if you like, so they're not going to be chasing their small, particularly their smaller customers at the moment. Other customers, I think, are extending their payment terms.
Yeah,
do you think that's quite widespread now?
I think policies are changing. Absolutely. I think again, it comes down to that segmentation piece. You should be able to quickly analyze your entire debtor book, understand who those large organizations are, be able to adapt, have a look into their previous payment behavior, and then to be able to speak to those customers and to see what their sort of different continuity plans are with regards to payments of suppliers at this time. Is it becoming more widespread? I think it really does vary sector to sector. I think the customers I've spoken to, they're certainly finding some organizations that are willing to settle, but other sectors are certainly finding things a real struggle right now. So I think it does vary in my experience.
Yes, indeed. And I guess that leads to kind of dispute management, dispute resolution. Should people be examining the strategy there and thinking about how they're going to handle that going forward?
Absolutely. And you know what? Now's the time. if we imagine that the majority of disputes can often be fixed by commercial teams, and it's the commercial teams that are able to help you also with the resolution of payments. So these commercial teams are not out in the field selling anymore. You know, they're certainly not visiting their customers in a face-to-face basis, and they may find that they've actually got a little bit of time on their hands for housekeeping around this area. So for me, now is an optimal time. Everyone can join remotely. One customer I spoke to set up a recent sort of disputes council. They're able to run that session directly through their platform, and they're inviting different dispute ownership groups into that council where they're reviewing through, you know, the largest disputes, the ones that are causing them the biggest blockage. And that online collaboration is certainly driving down the dispute resolution times. It's creating the visibility in the business. So, you know, now is a great time for you to connect with the wider business on something like a common topic such as dispute management, and to try to form relationships where people have, you know, a role to play in the resolution of those issues. And at the end of the day, you speak to the accounts team, you speak to the sales manager, whoever it is who's in charge with that relationship, and they're going to be able to then maybe put you in touch with the right person, customer's organization around the payment as well. So it's really a great opportunity to find new ways of collaborating on an online platform. The focus must still remain on making cash collection activity. Dispute management is key, housekeeping is key, but we're going to be entering into a period now where working capital needs are really at their highest as we start to come out of this crisis, and organizations are now going to be thinking, well, we've just had a dip in, you know, business performance over the last quarter, and we have to make up those losses. And the worst thing that would come from that is, you know, people looking at operating costs to fix that gap in the working capital. The better approach, of course, would be to be proactive at this time, to try to speak to those customers about payment and to try to make sure that those accounts can still be settled on time as best as possible.
Okay. And just thinking about everything you've said there, the organisations that haven't got maybe a dedicated kind of digital credit management system, cash collection system, what do you think? What sort of pains are they going to be feeling at the moment, and how can they address that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the challenges are going to be largely around visibility and around understanding what the team is doing. I've spoken to a number of potential customers recently, you know, and they all say, you know, what, I wish I had this software in place today, because I have no visibility. You know, if you imagine a decentralized organization, you know, which has got people that are now working in different tools, in different systems, and managers or within that organization trying to understand what people are doing on a hour by hour, day by day basis, and to ensure that they're working on the right task. And these can sometimes be large teams, right? You know, this can be a team of 30, 40 people, right, that needs to have a daily task list, and those methods of being able to walk around the office to speak to individuals who are maybe not making the right levels of activity, those opportunities have now left us. So I think, you know, getting that visibility is certainly one of the main challenges that people are faced with today, so that they can provide that risk report, so that they can have that sort of assurance that the team are working. And I think they'll feel quite exposed at the moment that, you know, that they don't have that in place.
And how long, I mean, so if they decide to take a system like Sidetrade or similar, how long is it going to take them to get something like that in place? Is that not realistic then in the timescales of this crisis, do you think?
I mean, I can only speak for Sidetrade here. I mean, I think, you know, what we've done in light of this crisis is to be able to develop a specific offer that is, you know, targeted at getting you stood up within a matter of days. it requires just a data import directly into the system, and we're able to digitize the collections procedure directly using our digital collection application. With this application, your customer receives an email automatically. They're able to click on a link within that email where they're taken to an online view of their account, and from here they're able to download copy bills, they're able to register promises, they're able to tell you of disputes, and all of that information, those interactions, are being tracked in real time directly back into our software platform, which the collector is able to see. So this is solving many challenges. It's solving the problem of coverage, because people may be sick, they may be unable to work, and their portfolios are not being covered. So the first point is you solve is coverage. The second point you solve is being able to reach people with a media that's maybe not so intrusive and as a phone call, and reaches them at their business account where they should be able to access and to see the statement of account that's held with that organization. And it fixes that visibility point as well, because now the managers are able to track those mailings that are going out, those digital collection invitations, and understand how many customers are receiving them, responding to them, transferring them, working on them. Also through this offer, you're able to record the activity that's going on. So as a collector, you can suddenly make notes, plan follow-ups, diarize your activity, and all of that is really good and motivating, I think, for the collectors who want to be able to show that they are working, that they have got the company's best interests at heart, by putting that information into a dedicated system. So that's how Sidetrade have responded to that particular need, and we're certainly seeing a lot of interest in that offer right now.
I imagine. All right, Rob, thanks very much. I really appreciate your time and for sharing those thoughts. Cheers.
Happy to help.